is my last day here in India, and I'm in Kashmir, and it's been almost 2 months since I arrived. It feels like a lifetime because I've had so many different things happening, and what not better time to reflect on my experience, to give some tips, some mistakes, some things that I really can't live with, some things that I really can't understand in the Indian culture, and share how it's been for me as a solo female traveler. And by the way, this is all from my experience being in India. I have lived in Dubai for 13 years. And I know the culture. I've dealt with a lot of people from India. I have several friends. I've traveled a few times to the south and now through the north. So this is my experience, and of course you could have a completely different experience. I was really surprised and a bit shocked when I first posted a question on Reddit on my itinerary through northern India. A lot of people, Indians specifically, told me to change my ticket and flight, that I'm crazy, that things are going to happen to me, I'll get raped, killed, and the rest. And we've heard that some things could happen here, just like anywhere else. I generally always felt safe here. There's a few incidents that I will share later, but in general, I've never felt like I'm threatened or that my safety is in danger in any way. Then again, I take all the precautions. I take care of myself. I don't walk around at night. So if you use common sense, I think India is generally very welcoming, and it's safe for solo female travelers. That's at least my experience. Mistake number one is thinking that you know India just because you've been somewhere, even if you've been south, north. It can be completely different from town to town. I felt it really strongly coming from Leh Ladakh, which is a Tibetan Buddhist culture, very gentle people, much more chilled. I felt it coming to Kashmir, which is Muslim, is very close to Pakistan, completely different culture, people, food, way of life, everything. And it's one state, Himachal Pradesh. So being in Goa, being in Kerala, being in Dharamsala, everything feels like a completely different world. So if you have the time and you'd like to travel around, you need much more than 2 months to get to know really a lot of culture and all the diversity here. Mistake number two, not having patience in India. And I had to really center myself here because I like things fast and efficient, and India is not like that at all. So the most difficult for me to understand was the SIM card story, and that's something new, I believe, from this year. When you purchase a SIM card, you have to provide a local number on which to get a PIN code. But as a tourist, unless you have a friend here, how do you get a local number? And they just kind of go, can't do anything, this is the rules. So bit of difficulties there. Then the train, booking trains, their system, I could never get registered there. I tried to call them, it was just, it's inefficient. You will hear a lot of times that a mode of transport will take like 4 hours, then takes 8 hours. For example, my trip from Manali to Ladakh was supposed to take 10-12, it took 17 hours on a bus. And it's kind of like, well, what can we do? It's the road. But it's not really, because they stopped so many times and they just, they just slow. What can you do? Another thing that is just mind-boggling for me is the Form C. So as a foreigner, every time to go to an Airbnb, a hotel, anywhere, and like I moved a lot in 2 months. Imagine if you're doing like 8 months. You have to fill up a form this big with all the details, your passport, where you come from, why, all these things. And it's like, but I've done it like so many times, why? Police has to know. So like it's not a centralized system. I don't know what they do with these forms, because it's like a piece of paper, but you have to do it every time. So there's certain rules that make no sense to us, but it is what it is. No sense of personal space in India, and it's a cultural thing. Nothing to worry too much about, but it was a bit shocking for me to be withdrawing money from the ATM, and there's a person literally like standing behind you and just like watching. you, and like until I had to actually be kind of, I don't know if it's impolite or now, but like kind of go like, please step away from me. And yeah, you'll see the same in like transports, in queuing. Yeah, people don't have any sense of queuing in some of the states. So like, yeah, there's no order there. You just have to like kind of go in with the flow, and people will go on top of you. But that's how it is. Then again, it's a cultural thing. They don't really have this sense of personal space like we do in the West, and so yeah, don't take offense about it. Wearing inappropriate clothes and then complaining about people staring at you or hitting on you, it can still happen, of course, but yeah, it happens less if you have a shawl always with you, if you don't wear like tiny shorts and tiny tops. And I've seen in some regions girls really pushing the boundaries, and then it's just like disrespecting the local culture. I wore maybe 1/3 of my backpack because yeah, small tops and like shorts and things like that, it just makes life more difficult for us here. And especially if you go to temples and mosques and things like that, of course always cover yourself, and it's just easier to navigate things. Food. We all know Indian food is really interesting and varied and colorful and spicy, and so don't be scared to try different local food. Of course, take precautions. Water is really important, so never drink tap water, always buy bottled water. Generally they say not to eat anything raw here, and it's really hard to actually find any salads unless you go to like trendy cafes, which I found in Dharamsala and Leh. Either ask where you're staying for recommendations, or just see where people go. Wherever's busy usually is good. And I am vegetarian, so that makes it a bit safer than for people that eat meat, because yeah, contamination. Generally where the locals are or you see busy places, it's safe. It's fine the whole trip. Nothing happened to me, to my stomach. I just felt, yeah, heavy because a lot of rice and dal and yeah, generally heavy food here. Do keep in mind that cleanliness standards are a bit lower than in the West, a lot. So I had to close many times my eyes when I saw kind of people grabbing things with their hands, and you don't know if those hands are clean, but yeah, it is what it is. If you're in the middle of nowhere on the road and that's the only option you have, then yeah, you just gotta eat like the locals. Nothing happened to me, luckily. So yeah, do enjoy the food, but take precautions. Don't go for the cheapest accommodations if you can, because yeah, safety issues as well as cleanliness issues. So India is somehow well priced, depends where you are, because I've paid up to 30 euros for a room, and although it was clean, it was really simple, and it didn't even have toilet paper, and that's a norm, it seems like, in the north, at least where I've traveled now. So you have to purchase your own toilet paper here, but at least if you go for like a mid-range budget, you know that it's going to be clean, you're going to get a better service, it's safe, it's better. So don't complain if you go for the cheapest option and then that it's like horrible for you. You get what you pay for here as well. Too many words to explain what you need, so I don't know if it's a language problem or it's just a cultural thing. So how we use in the West, could you please bring me this without this, it doesn't work here. You have to really be direct and use as little words as possible. So tea, little milk, thank you. I think in the Indian culture they don't like to say that they don't know something, to say no. So oftentimes when I ask questions someone and you clearly can see that they don't understand you, they just say yes. They show you a direction, but you see how unsure they are of it. They just, I think it's in their blood to be really helpful to your own detriment, because yeah, they're not sure how they're helping you. So just bear in mind before trusting someone's answer here. So quite often, especially in cities where there's a lot of tourists, people can be really pushy. And so you need to be really firm and confident in the way you respond to them. So it's not like timid kind of no thank you, whatever, no, like no means no. And if they are too pushy to you, don't be scared to raise your voice and to say that I'm gonna call the police, or even if you're in a situation, start screaming and they'll leave you alone. Usually they get scared of this. But yeah, especially being a woman traveler, you have to really be firm and be confident in the way you speak to them, and really exercise your power and confidence if they're being too pushy or harassing you. Another mistake is not tipping. And that was a surprise to me because I've seen quite a few travelers from different nationalities not leaving at all a tip in different places as well. Europe or in America, this is how people earn money, no? So I find it normal. If we are tipping in other countries, why not tip in India as well? Especially knowing how low the salaries are. And it's a contribution for being in this country and being a tourist, receiving a service, and just if you have the opportunity to be helping at least a little bit other people, know. Finding perspective, and that's a complex theme, I guess, because you see quite a bit of poverty around and people being in very tough situations from our perspective. And it was interesting because I was in a very remote place in Tsomoriri in Leh Ladakh, which is basically a very remote village that works on tourism, and I was staying in a homestay, and they have electricity maybe 2 hours a day. So they hand wash things, and my mom pointed it out when I was sharing some videos, like how poor people, how they're living without comforts. And I was just thinking about it, looking at their faces. They're really peaceful, and the kids seem really happy. And actually throughout India, I've seen the kids are really generally happy, always smiling. And it's from our perspective of the West that, oh wow, if they don't have a comfortable place or TV. I understand that there are people here that are really, really struggling, and that's another perspective, of course. But there are people that are just living a simple life, and they don't necessarily miss the things that we think that they miss. They're happy living a simple life, and they have food, and they have shelter, and they have peace. That's the most important. Now, onto the things that I really don't understand. Number one is the constant honking. And I'm sure they don't mean anything bad, it's just a cultural thing. Now, imagine you're in this mountain village, which is meant to be peaceful, and you're walking way away from the road, lost in your thoughts, looking at the nature, and trying to hear the birds. Every single car that would pass right next to you, that would honk loudly. And of course that startles you, that's just like creates anxiety and things. And I actually stopped once a car, like literally I went like, what is it? And like the guy almost got scared. But like, what is the logic? Like, I'm not in your way, I know you're coming, there's no need to honk so much. And yeah, and the totality of all the cars, it just creates a chaos even like in peaceful towns. Again, I'm sure it's just a cultural thing, the constant honking, but it really bothered me as a helicopter. Anyway. Number two is the garbage situation in India, and that is so sad to see here. And I understand when people are not educated perhaps, and for people that their basic needs are not met, that they're not really considering this factor of not putting garbage everywhere. But in places like Manali or here Pahalgam, Aru Valley, these are Indian tourists that have the means to travel, they're probably educated, and yet they throw garbage everywhere. And I know that the government is trying to do something because I've seen so many signs talking about garbage, but I just don't understand the mentality. If you care about the earth, the future of the planet, okay, but for yourselves, I mean, you're in this beautiful valley that's meant to be clean, you're camping there with your families, and you just leave all this plastic everywhere, and then the whole valley is just covered in garbage. How is it nice to be there afterwards? So yeah, this is really something that bothered me everywhere. I couldn't understand it. I've seen multiple people, actually we were at Triund and we saw some young people They were kind of tipsy and they just left their plates and everything they ate there, and we actually went and approached them and kind of educated them a bit, and they seemed to have understood and collected their own garbage. And I really hope that this can change in the mentality and culture, and the people here can appreciate and have gratitude for the nature that they have in their own country. Discrimination, and I found it to be valid for both sides. So I found it really sad that some Indian people I've talked to find it already uncomfortable to go to places like Dharamkot because they're so tourism oriented, and yeah, they're even called Little Israel because there's a lot of Israelis there. But apparently for their own people now, when they go there, they feel discriminated, like they don't get a good service and they're not regarded as good tourists, which I find really sad because it's their own country. So I felt discrimination towards myself, and that was just a couple of times, especially here in Kashmir. I think that they are not so used to foreign tourism as much as before. So in this particular case, I was really ignored and not given any attention because, well, an Indian family was much more demanding and shouting and fighting. And so me being polite and quiet and just kind of like asking, could I have this or that? Yeah, it didn't work. And I had to point this out because I'm the same paying customer, if probably not more, and I didn't get any service. So yeah, do keep in mind that sometimes you have to be louder and more demanding here, which I really don't like to do because I like to be polite, but it is what it is. And the last point is towards Indian men. And it happened only a handful of times here, particularly two that I can remember that are quite strong and got me really angry. One was in New Delhi, where I was walking in the park, and young man approached me. He was very polite and just was asking questions, and I know people here like to communicate with tourists. They're very curious, so yeah, I didn't mind. I wasn't rude to him. We're just having a normal conversation until it started going towards having fun with Western girls, and that got me clearly very angry to which I not so politely declined actually, and actually explained a few things to him. I don't know if he understood or not, but yeah, I made my point. And then the second case that happened here in Kashmir got me really offended and angry, and that was in a hotel I was staying. The owner of the hotel was very polite. He spoke English, well educated. He showed me a path to go to nature somewhere, chatted a bit with me while we had chai. I mean, just in my opinion, normal things. I wouldn't even imagine that something would cross his mind, but apparently it did, because he sent me a message asking if I like to have casual relationships. Wow, they got me really, really angry. And yeah, knowing that here in Kashmir people are Muslim as well, I really made a point, a very strong point to him, and I think he understood because he could barely look at me afterwards. I moved hotels, I wasn't in any kind of danger, but it just got me really offended and really got me thinking, because I like to be friendly, I like to smile at people, I'm polite, and men take it the wrong way, and not just Indian men, sometimes, yeah, other men as well. I would like to complete the point about the men in India and men in general, actually, and me as a woman that is traveling alone. Would like to continue to feel safe and to be still polite and interact with men and smile and just be a normal human being, normal person. If I meet someone, to be kind and polite and not be always on the defense. For men in general, maybe you should not make such assumptions just because a woman is alone, traveling alone, she's talking to you, she is kind to you. Don't assume that she's interested in you. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and you found some insights or tips for yourselves. If you're traveling to India, get excited. This is a huge continent with so much culture, so much, just it's so much. Embrace it all and be open. And I'm definitely going back, but for now, I'm ready for my next adventure. Lots of love, Yana. Yeah, done.